Hello, everybody. Welcome into episode 3 of Around the Corn. We've got our returning cast from episode 2. Of course, our winner, again, shocking to everybody, including himself, Acorn. And adding in our fourth, Johnny, has joined us. The Allfather has returned and graced us with his presence. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you guys doing?
Well, I'm doing good. I like that you don't respond to that anymore. The Allfather thing. You used to be like, no, I don't know, but you just accepted it. You're our Odin. All right, we're just gonna jump right in. Topic number one. It's somewhat of a discussed topic, kind of as we were complaining about our losing our UDFA's, and that is the all or nothing strat in UDFA. Throwing all your money on as little guys as possible. Just make sure you get your top targets. So the question is that a sound strategy, or should you aim to throw multiple darts, get 7, 8, 9 guys with guaranteed money, and try to, make sure you can kind of collect the best of the rest, just kind of again going for that volume. Johnny, being the newcomer, I will give you the floor to start.
So I think it's very similar to the logic of trading up or trading down. I think like you're always going to put yourself in a better position by giving yourself more dart throws, especially with UDFA's. Like there's no correlation to like this position does better or players from, major conferences or smaller schools do better. So I think overall, like if you're spreading it out and giving yourself as many chances for them to hit as possible, I think that's really where your best strategy is. And it just comes down to like the same thing with trading down. You're going to give yourself more opportunities to have hits. And that's really what this whole, the draft is about, is giving yourself as many opportunities to get some studs.
All right, Acorn, you're up.
Okay, if we look at his story at the ACFL draft, 2021, highest drafted UDFA. Nashawn Wright went 99 IRS. Sucked. 2022, Deron Bland, all pro corner, led the league in INTs. 2023, Broderick Martin, uh, sucks. Sucks. D tackle for the Lions, sucks. 2024, Tarib Still, ended up 80 overall corner. That's a good pickup. So, as we can see, it is not an exact science. I don't think you can really make an argument for either way. Obviously, there have been some UDFA pickups in that, would make everyone feel stupid afterwards, right? It's like, why wasn't I looking at that guy? What are we doing here? But this is all I'm going to say is that the method is clear. We have a very clear bad, good, bad, good, bad, good kind of track record. So I would like to offer my apologies to the Philadelphia Eagles for drafting Justin Wally, the highest UDFA player here that got drafted for being a total bum. So, yeah.
Very pattern oriented. I love it. JFK, your take.
Yeah, I like how really definitive and clear Acorn's answer was there. So I'm on team throw as many shots out there as you can, except for one case I'll give because I think the numbers, you know, not actually doing numbers, just the vibes of the numbers, but. It, these day three guys, if you blow half your UDFA money on a guy who's a day three pick, a lot of these guys don't even end up making their roster, let alone being impactful players. So I think you're much better off getting, 20 or 30 guys, giving them a couple K each. We've seen teams be really successful with that. They will just some teams don't spend anything until like August, and then they just pick up all the UDFA's that are out there for 5, 10K each, and a couple of them make the roster, and you could say those teams have some of the most successful UDFA classes. But the only exception I'll give to where you drop a paycheck is if a guy's going to be guaranteed player on your team and they're filling a really unique role or something where you can plug this guy in and say he's doing this. So while I don't like the player, I'll go with the example of Robbie Outs from the Denver Broncos signed him. He's a fullback and blocking tight end. And guess what? You pick him up, and right away you're going to say he's playing our fullback spot. And you know what? You don't have to do any. You don't have to touch that. You don't have to look in that direction at all. It's if you're going to drop a paycheck on a UDFA, don't just get your corner 7 or your receiver 7. Make sure you're getting a guy who they're going to do something on the field.
All right, and now Vic to bring us home on the segment.
So there's a lot to be said about responsible team building and accumulating draft assets, bringing aboard multiple players at positions, all that jazz. Um, but let's be honest. Sometimes you just have to be good at scouting and finding good players and getting them on your roster. And if that means overpaying to bring someone aboard, by all means do it. At the end of the day, like if you're not going to have the conviction of your beliefs and your choices, then what are we even doing here? You just have to be willing to go all in on someone for just about $200,000 and know that they're going to fill a spot on your roster and you know contribute right away and develop into the great player that you believe that they will become. I mean, anyone can just throw a dart 50 times and say they got a bullseye, but if you throw 2 darts and you get bullseyes, it, that's what it's all about here in the ACFL.
While your vibes were high, I don't necessarily think you provided analysis on them, but I appreciate your motivational speaking. Your 2 points were earned for that. I do appreciate that. Um, so for number 2, moving on back to the quarterback. Quarterbacks, it's going to be a lot of this. They're the most interesting to talk about. And this will be about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who, of course, they already have a quarterback, but they did draft one, so I guess, it is what it is. But they got Tyler Shook, who went pretty highly in real life to a team that will potentially even be playing him this year, depending on what kind of happens with their other quarterbacks and that sort of thing, and Tyler Shook. So, with the Derek Carr injury, with Spencer Rattler suffering from the mid to bad, they may roll with him. So, do you think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have inched any closer to finding their answer at quarterback post Brady? And we will go with JFK, who won the previous round. You're first, buddy.
I got 2 letters for you. N-O. They did not get any closer. Malik Willis, Taylor Heineke. I don't think I need to speak very much on these guys. They will not be impactful players long term for the Buccaneers. So yeah, it really comes down to show. And you got to give them credit. They got a guy who went in the early second in the 4th round. QB goes in the early second. At least the draft value is there. But to me, the show pick was generationally bad. Like I'm talking Hackenberg in the 2nd level of bad pick. I barely even had show being a draftable grade in this class. Ancient quarterback prospect, hasn't shown anything. The tools are it's not good to be raw, and it's not good to be a 25-year-old, and it's really not good to be a raw 25-year-old. And Show is that guy. And I don't think the Saints are a good environment at all for him to develop as a quarterback. Like you said, Steele, he might be the starter day one. God help that team if he's the starter day one, because he will be terrible. Yeah, that's all I can really say. He's a really bad quarterback. So no, they did not get closer.
I love the NO start. Very strong. 2 points for that alone. Vic, let's get you some points here. You're up second. Maybe.
He said never mind.
Oh, no points for Vic. Yeah. Well.
-1 for being muted. He muted himself.
I got to agree, but unfortunately,
I was trying to be respectful.
For trying to like you lose a point also. Sorry.
So first of all, let me just get off the bat. The poor man's name is Tyler Shock. let's at least get his name pronounced correctly, even if we're going to disparage him correctly. So, I mean, in real life, he's going to a rough situation in New Orleans with a wide receiver core that is not healthy to say the least, and not great either. Um, you know, and offensive line, even with Kelvin Banks, could be decent. I don't have a ton of hopes there. Um, you know, but if there's one thing that I know is that there's always this one random quarterback every year that we have no faith in that goes into a situation that makes no sense and just for some reason just kind of pops off a little bit. Now, do I personally believe that would be Tyler Shuck? Not, no, not really. And that's what leads me to believe that it's going to be him because I have such conviction the other way that sometimes, you know, reality just breaks you like that. So, on the case of Tampa Bay, they have weapons, they have players on the offensive line. D- does it make any sense? No, but sometimes football doesn't make any sense, and uh a quarterback like Tyler Shuck, who's older, who's seen a lot of football, over his, what is it, 34 years, 25 years, who knows at this point, of play, is, in an advantageous spot to take off and spread his wings and become a mid starter that gives them fake hope for a little bit.
Okay, Acorn, you're up.
While I may understand that not the correct pronunciation, I'm going to keep using it here for just a minute. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have 4 options here at quarterback, and I think any of them are going to be fine. First, probably the worst, Taylor Heineke. We've seen what he can do. Is he the best quarterback in the National Football League? Hell no. He's got his moments where he just stinks. But once in a while, this guy pulls out a little magic. He kept Washington watchable for a year or two there, just because he's fun. Okay, so they got to roll him out. Whatever. Second, Malik Willis. You know what? I'll go on record here. I'll let them quote me. The haters. You know what? I'm giving you a bone. Best quarterback on the Green Bay Packers roster. Okay, I think this guy. If the Packers don't wake up and they're not going to let him play, he'll end up starting somewhere in a year or two once his contract runs out. Second option, picks, right? Trade down from the first overall pick, end up with numerous first round selections next year, an absolute treasure trove of picks. If one of these guys breaks out next year, well, guess what? You're sitting pretty, go get your guy, right? Especially if the team stinks. Very well might be, but I don't think they will, because that leaves us with our first option, Tyler Show.
Okay, I did say we were gonna hurry it up here, so you've got like
And
20. You got 20 seconds.
Okay, won't take me that long. All I'll say is I think he's gonna steal the moniker from Hugh Jackman, and he will go down in history as the greatest showman. Thank you.
Boo! Throw tomatoes at this man.
Boo.
Yeah, that was awful. Oh my god. What? Okay, can someone tell me what Acorn said during that?
Okay, well, the bar is low, Johnny. Take us home.
Okay, so if you're asking me if the Bucks have got the QB figured out with Tyler Shuck, I think they're going to be saying "aw shucks" because he's not good. I don't think he's a very good processor. I don't think he has a very strong arm. He is not very mobile. I mean, you saw the throw at the combine. It was jarring how off that was. But I think if you're asking me have the Bucks got the QB figured out in a general sense, I do, because here's where I think Tyler Shuck, Malik Willis, or Taylor Heineke will come invaluable. For the next 2 to 3 years, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have a tank commander. So they will be ready and able to get Arch Manning in basically any draft they go into by tossing any of these guys out there. Now, I know Malik Willis is expiring, so you throw him out there this year. Maybe you throw Taylor Heineke out for the first part of the year. You mix and match. They've got options on how to get to Arch Manning, and I think you got to give them credit for that. They didn't spend a high pick on Tyler Shuck either. Like they got the benefit of the NFL taking them higher. But I think overall, I think that they're going to be in a good position being able to get a better quarterback down the line. It was a low stakes investment for a better QB down the line.
Oh, we love a good tank commander. Hell yeah! I was hoping one of you would take that angle. All right, let's see here. We're gonna do 4 questions here, just because of the nature of this running long and trying to stick to 30 minutes. So, my next question, and I promise, this is not me coping. Does draft value lost compared to the ACFL draft and your life draft matter? And Johnny, I think you had the most points in the last round, so we'll give it to you here to start.
I personally think it doesn't really matter that much. It's really dependent on the only area where I think it matters is the opportunity that the prospect is going to get. I mean, I'm thinking of personal experience. Peyton Turner, I drafted in the 4th round. He went in the 1st in real life. Tyquan Thornton, I drafted in like the 6th round. He went in the 2nd in real life. They got opportunities, but it didn't make them a better prospect just because the NFL viewed them that way. I think Cole Strange was probably a similar example. Like, I can't think of too many examples where somebody was drafted a lot higher in the NFL than they were in the ACFL, and it worked out consistently. But also on the other side, I can't think of too many examples of being underdrafted in the NFL also working out for you, especially because it means that you're just going to get less opportunities. I mean, Matt Corral comes to mind as one. That's probably the biggest example. I think Malik Willis is probably another example, like that, just the quarterbacks from that class. So I think overall, there's no set, like, it doesn't really matter. You want to root for them to be overdrafted, though, because they're more likely to get a little bit more opportunity and stick around a little bit longer than from where you drafted them.
All right, Vic, you can take the floor here.
So I think I kind of agree where it doesn't really matter if you pick them higher or lower than in real life. But what I think matters is that they end up in a marketable location for Madden to boost them. So if you're talking about, you know, taking a player earlier in the 1st round than they go in real life, but hey, they end up in Baltimore or the Pittsburgh or Philly, and a place where Madden's gonna love them and boost them and give them higher ratings. Hell yeah, take them a little bit earlier. Who cares? Same thing on the flip side. If someone falls to you and you're like, awesome, this guy, and they end up in a great spot in round 2, sweet, call it a win. But if reach on someone, they end up going to Cleveland or a team that doesn't have the vibes necessary to justify them getting boosted in Madden and becoming a great player in the sim, then it doesn't really matter where you take them. If you got them higher, you got them with value. Just get the players that go to the good teams because Madden's gonna love them and boost them and call it a day.
All right, JFK, you are up. Maybe.
Sorry about that. So it's an interesting question because as soon as it comes into effect, it stops mattering because once they're you don't find out what draft slot they're going to get drafted at until they get drafted. And once they've been drafted, the value's already been played out. It's not a hypothetical value anymore. It's just the player in front of you. Of course, draft slot. I mean, does draft slot affect how good a player is at playing football? No. So it should posit that draft slot really doesn't matter. Obviously, you're kind of getting vibes here. If a guy drops, that might not be a good sign, but it's really just vibes. It's the player is who the player is going to be. whether they were drafted in the 3rd, the 5th, the 7th, or undrafted. Yeah, that's. Does it matter that I suck at this? Is the quiz the topic?
Well, I've,
I
I've,
just
been,
noticed.
I've been the worst at like 2 of the 3 years that we've been tracking it heavily. So,
Uh, yeah, I'll talk a little more. The thing that really I'm looking at the most honestly is the fit, and not like in the how they will fit into the team, but is this team good at drafting these players and good at drafting in general? Because some of these teams, I talk about the Bengals a lot, but there are also teams like the Bears, the Panthers, who the real life teams who they're out to lunch on how to draft. They do not know how to. If you look at their draft classes year after year, they don't know what they're doing. They're just throwing darts at the board and seeing what sticks. So if I see a player get drafted by one of those teams where I don't know what they're cooking, I'm a little worried. And if I see a guy go to a team that's really good at drafting, I'm thinking even if they're a later pick, it's like, okay, they might have had a good grade on this guy, and if they have a good grade on him, then that's a good sign for me.
all right, and we will head it to our doghouse boy Acorn. Are you ready to join the real world again? Or are you gonna stay in the negatives?
Well, I'm pretty sure I'm legally dead after that fall. Lesser heights have killed men than that fall, but I'm gonna just keep it real with you. I'll be honest. Excuse me. What is one of the most fun parts of the ACFL? It's drafting, scouting guys, and then seeing them go higher than where you drafted. Hell yeah, I was right. The NFL was higher on this guy. I'm so cool and bragging your shit. Right? We've all been there. But what's even more fun than that? Having a guy you scouted, you watched, you told yourself, this guy is awesome. I love him. Draft day comes, he goes much later than where you drafted him. He might even go undrafted. You get clowned on it, right? But as we've seen time and time again, just because you go later than where you were drafted here does not make you a bad player. And what is even more fun than talking your shit after your guy goes high, it's your guy going late and still having to. That is what we like to call the last laugh. So.
Very, very good. I love it, but unfortunately, not enough to take away most of your negatives. But John, so I do have to award some negative points here at the end. JFK, I loved your rant at the end. Unfortunately, it did give me Mel Kiper vibes, so you are going to lose 2 points for that. And Johnny, for neglecting any of the actual wins that have been numerous during your talk of players falling and all sucking, I will drop you 1 point for that as well.
Who were they?
Well, I've drafted like 7 of them. Raymond, Chanel, Henley went around lower. Parham went around lower. Like, those are just my guys.
Okay.
Steele, can I cut in just for a second here?
You sure can.
You said about the Kuiper vibes. I know you're referencing obviously Kuiper's infamous rant in the '90s about the passing on a quarterback and a certain this guy doesn't know any football.
Or like this year, yeah, any Mel Kiper year really.
Kuiper deserves all the hate in the world. I mean, this year was an outright embarrassment. But in that rant in the '90s, he was right.
You know what?
Especially back then, a lot more teams, they didn't know what the hell they were doing with drafting at all. I mean, you saw teams that were taking fullbacks top 10 in the 80s. I mean, some of these teams were just, they did not, especially back then, some of these teams, the draft was basically a joke. They did not know what they were doing at all. And there's a reason Mel Kiper got so popular so quickly is because he was the first guy who was like even looking at these guys. Like a lot of these guys were just drafting like their buddies in the 10th round.
Yeah, no, you know what? I'll give you it back. Yeah, I gave you a point back. That's fair. He was 100% right to call those fuckers out at the time. So you get a point back, all right? Maybe, All right. but it's still can't shake the vibes. All right, I saw you with the hair.
You
It was bad. All right.
saw the Jimmy Clausen staring you down.
Yeah. Okay, so for our final topic here, will this Bears draft have the most impact on a playoff hopeful team? Meaning, kind of positive or negative, kind of the biggest swing for them to hit it. Um, I'll let Acorn. I guess I'll let you. You're at the bottom here. You know, you're gonna need a big round. We'll have you start.
I'm personally going to say no, because I did not like the Bears draft. I think Michael Williams was overdrafted here. That is not to even mention how much he was overdrafted in real life. I didn't like him. Did not like the pick. Their next couple of picks, just to name a few, Jonah, I'm not even going to try and butcher that name. I have respect for the man. I think fine prospect, but it's not a needle mover for me. Then you got guys like Dion Walker, who, you know what, fat boy, gonna give some love there. But again, how much is he really gonna start? And that goes for most of these guys. Mike Howe, I believe, will start opposite Alex Highsmith. But outside of that, you got like RJ Harvey, went in the second in real life. Are they benching Damian Pierce for him? I do not believe they took enough high value positions for me to comfortably say, yes, this is the most impactful draft for a potential playoff team. I do not think it was a harmful draft, but I do not think it was an impactful one.
Okay, well, you
And
lost a lot of points there because the question wasn't specifically about will it be good. It's they were a playoff team, so like, will that keep them there? Will this draft be the indicator of that? That's more the question.
it's not
So
it's not an impactful draft.
I threw you out there as the guinea pig just because you were never gonna win. But it's more about, again, they needed these positions to hit that they did. So will they open the door for somebody else, or will they keep the door shut? JFK, I will let you now with better parameters on the question thanks to Acorn bombing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little helpful, although I was planning on taking it the direction you were talking about anyway, because I want to talk about another team who I think they're a playoff team, also in the NFC, or a potential playoff team, obviously, in the NFC, and I think their draft class has the chance to be super impactful right away. The Los Angeles Rams. They have 7 picks. I'll just list them off here for you. They picked up Emeka Egbuka, Josh Simmons, Elijah Arroyo, Alec Ayomanor, Ozzie Trapilo, Dylan Fairchild, and Billy Bowman Jr. And I think all those first 6 guys, all of them but Billy Bowman, have the potential to be. I mean, Trapilo and Fairchild, they could be day one starters for their teams on the O line. Ayomanor probably won't be a starter, but the rest of those guys, they can all easily be starters for this team. And they were barely missed the playoffs last year, if I remember correctly. They were the team that got booted out for the Falcons in the in the swap.
They booted in for the Falcons. We switched their teams, but they did make it.
Oh, they got
The
in
game
for the Falcons.
the game
Okay.
messed up and put them out, but they were in.
Okay, yeah, so they were a playoff team, but yeah, I see a lot of these guys stepping in and being potential starters right away. And yeah, I think while I'm not a huge fan of all these guys, I didn't like Trapilo that much, for instance, but late second round pick, and they're talking about him being a starting tackle. I think he's a guy he could be their starter. He could be a starter on their O line from day one and not be the worst at it. So yeah, I think these guys, they have the potential for a lot of snaps from this rookie class, and with the further development of Caleb Williams in game, I think he'll be happy to see all these new additions.
All right, that's good. Impact on the playoff race, rookies, nailed it. Got a lot of positive points. All right, Johnny, got a bit of a comeback ahead of you. What do you got cooked for us?
So I don't think that this really helped the Bears all that much. I think that they got a lot of help, especially early in the season, from the simulation with some of their weaker quarterbacks. I think getting Matt Stafford was definitely a big bump for them to get a playoff push late in the season. But I think overall, I don't really foresee a lot of their draft picks being high impact players right from the get go. And I'll kind of jump off of what JFK did. I think that the team that probably took the biggest step towards getting into the playoff push was the Seattle Seahawks. I think that they took tremendous advantage of the bounty of draft picks that they had to address needs and get high impact players. They grabbed Abdul Carter, Trey Amos, Kyle Williams, Marcus Mbo. Like, I think they addressed needs, and they're right on the precipice anyway. I think we went into the last season kind of thinking that, like, all right, this is their chance to really take that step forward and get into it. They kind of disappointed a little bit last year. They addressed some needs in free agency, but really through the draft is where, I mean, you got Jared Verse and Abdul Carter rushing the passer in year one, and Abdul Carter's probably gonna make some noise in year one, especially with, he's probably gonna have a high rating. He's probably gonna have a really good dev trait. So those two together, plus the gains that they've made to the interior defensive line, they've shored up the offensive line a little bit. You got Michael Penix Jr., JJ McCarthy. One of them, they're young, they're gonna develop, and I think that that's where they've put themselves in the best position to probably even steal whatever the playoff spot that the Chicago Bears took last season. And I just don't think that the Bears got enough impact players at the positions of need to also compensate for the luck they had at the beginning of the season, which really cemented their ability to make the playoffs last year.
All right, Vic, bring us home. Final contestant here.
So, as far as rookies making an impact year one, so the most important position in quarterback in football is quarterback. Everyone agrees. Everyone acknowledges that's true. Now, one team was a borderline playoff team last year, a game out from winning their division. And they drafted in the first round a quarterback who I believe will end up being a starting quarterback in the NFL in real life and will be their starting quarterback here. And yes, I'm going to go Mel Kiper Jr. on this. It is Shedeur Sanders and the Indianapolis Colts. Now, do I think that Shedeur Sanders is going to be the greatest quarterback of all time like Mel Kiper? No, I do not. But for a team like the Colts that needed to improve from that position, going into the season with Justin Fields and Hendon Hooker was not a sustainable play, as much as I might love Justin Fields, but that's beside the point. I think Shedeur Sanders will end up being the starting quarterback pretty soon in Cleveland and getting the job and helping the Colts push over the hump to win the AFC South and become a playoff team this year. That might be bold, but at the end of the day, like, if you're not taking a quarterback, you're kind of treading water. And I appreciate the Colts diving in and doing their best to try and compete in the division they almost won last year without, any sort of semblance of solid quarterback play. So, at the end of the day, I think the team that did the most in their draft was the team that took a quarterback to help them get into the playoffs.
Can I add one thing?
For no points, yes, you can.
Okay, I will say that I was going to go with an AFC team, but I thought in response to the question, I should stick to an NFC team in regards to, like, who improved their draft. I will say I do think that the Kansas City Chiefs did the best with because they had pressure from having to do something to get Mahomes over the hump and get him back into the playoffs. I think adding Kelvin Banks Jr., Trey Harris, and Cam Skatibo, I think those weapons will give them enough to compete this year. You're welcome, JFK.
JFK gets a point.
Aww.
JFK gets a point for a shout out. Yeah, I should have probably reworded the question a little bit when I tried to explain it, I guess, but I was more just like, will they have the most impactful or who will be? So I'll take -1 point as the question writer downer on that one because that's how I had it in my notes. So I just should have.
Just give another -1 to Acorn so we know that you gave
Oh,
yourself.
I was
you know
the
what?
only one
Good, good
without the
point.
big
That's
plus.
such a good point. You know what? Honestly, let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
I'm getting yelled at. What the fuck?
Just that's how many points. All right,
Is that
JFK.
also how many draft value points you lost by trading Travis Hunter?
You know what?
Oh, jeez.
That is so right. Let's get that up there.
I'm gonna give Johnny another one for that.
Yep.
You know what, Johnny? You're right. You do deserve some points for that. Good job. You're
Yeah.
in second
I
place.
will happily take third on that one. Oof, buddy.
All right, JFK. Your 30 seconds of fame is on.
Ugh, I just gotta say it's nice to do these with you guys, and we chat plenty in VC already, so it's nice to put points to it. Sometimes when you're arguing against Acorn, it feels like you have 20 and he has -11,000, and it's just nice to see that reflected. So yeah, enjoyable experience.
All right. Well, thanks for three of you guys for trying, and Acorn for showing up and being entertaining. We will be on for episode 4 here in the near future. I've been your host, Steele. See you guys next time.